There once was a girl named Emily who was very interested in science. In science class, she started learning about how cells reproduce, but she did not completely understand it. Luckily for Emily, she had a very special aunt named Katie who was taking an anatomy and physiology class in college. When Emily finally got home from school, she sat down with her aunt and asked, "What is the cell cycle?" Emily's aunt replied, "The cell cycle is a cycle of cell growth and reproduction. Do you want me to tell you about it?" Emily nodded her head, so her Aunt Katie went on. Mitosis is the process of cell reproducing. It is very important for making the new cells we need in our body. Before mitosis, a cell goes through a phase called interphase. This phase has three phases in it, known as the G1, S, and G2 phase. The G1 phase is the very first phase in interphase. In this phase, the cell starts to replicate all the mRNA needed to then replicate the DNA, or instructions for the cell. In this phase, some of the cell's organs, called organelles, are also reproduced. Chromatin is made of DNA, RNA, and proteins. In this phase, chromatin is loosely put together. The middle phase of interphase is called S phase. This phase is important because some replication of DNA occurs here. The final phase of interphase is called the G2 phase. In this phase, the cell starts to grow and proteins are made in the cell that will be needed for other phases in mitosis. After interphase comes the first real phase in mitosis, prophase. Prophase also has its own subphases, early and late prophase. In early prophase, the nucleolus, which holds the DNA of the cell, begins to dissolve. This causes the DNA and chromatin within it to be released. The chromatin begins to tighten together into X shapes, which are then called chromosomes. These chromosomes have two chromatids, which are copies of DNA. Since they are copies of the original DNA, they are called sister chromatids, and they are held together by one centromere. The second phase of interphase is late interphase. Centrioles are composed of microtubules, and they help with cell division. Centrioles and microtubules migrate to different parts of the cell to where they need to be during mitosis. During this phase, spindle fibers also form at opposite poles of the cell. These spindle fibers help move the chromosomes in mitosis, and they attach to the chromosomes through proteins connected to the chromatids called kinetochores. Astral rays are also microtubules that form from centrioles and attach to the centromere of each chromosome. In this phase, the nuclear envelope around the nucleus breaks down. The second phase of mitosis is called metaphase. During this phase, chromosomes move until they attach to spindle fibers that bring them together at a place in the cell known as the metaphase plate. The third phase in mitosis is called anaphase. In this phase, chromosomes then split, and then the daughter or copied chromosomes and the regular chromosomes move to opposite sides of the cell through spindle fibers. The fourth phase is called telophase. During telophase, the nucleus begins to form around both the chromosomes, and nuclear envelope begins to reform as well. The chromosomes then unwind back into chromatin, and cytokinesis begins to occur. Cytokinesis is the separation of cells. The pinch in the cell cytoplasm that gets smaller to separate the cells is called the cleavage furrow. So, to overview, there is a basic phase before mitosis that is important, and it is called interphase. Interphase has three phases. After interphase, mitosis begins. The first phase in mitosis is prophase. This phase is separated into early and late prophase. Then there is metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. After telophase, the cell has successfully reproduced. The end.